G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. I do hope you are super well. Just a quick video talking about the BCN rankings. These are rankings out of Japan. The BCN website is about new technology, reviews and rankings. Rankings on how technology is selling, what companies are doing best. And what's really interesting and exciting to see in this month's figures is the fact that Nikon have finally hit the #1 position after 13 years of Sony mostly being in the lead. This is really exciting news, and I suppose for some would be considered quite unexpected. But here we have it. Nikon has actually sold the most cameras in this category for the first time in a very, very long time. But certainly when it comes to mirrorless, this is a big deal. Now, this is all driven by the arrival of the brand new Nikon Z5II, which of course we all know this as a very powerful entry into full frame for the Nikon Z system. But this is also the case across the board. It is a very powerful camera. And if you think about some of the other entry-level offerings, for example, the Sony A7C II or the Canon R8, these are both, I would say, the entry to those companies' full-frame detachable lens offerings. Yet, for example, in Canon's case, they do not offer in-body image stabilization. And in Sony's case, this is a very, very small form factor camera. It doesn't have a full-blown shutter. The ergonomics are much smaller, and the EVF is also a very small EVF. So neither Canon nor Sony really offer what I would say is a full professional level camera at the entry to their full frame systems. Now, of course, this can change at any time. Now, what BCN say here is what they believe is driving the massive success of the Z5II and why it has pushed Nikon to #1 position overall. In the article translated from Japanese, BCN goes on to explain that Nikon led Sony by 1.3%. Now, why is that the case? And if we dive into this translated article, we can see that April is the first time that Nikon won the top monthly share of the full-sized mirrorless camera category. Now, Sony has been winning this category since the A7 came out in November 2013. Now, of course, that makes sense because neither Nikon or Canon even had an offering in this category in 2013. It took until 2018 for them to get their cameras out. And as it's been translated here, that Sony has only been destroyed 4 times in the 150 months that they have been watching the mirrorless full-frame market. The opponent was Canon. And of course, it was the launch of the new product, the Z5II, that pushed Nikon to the top this time. While it was released on April 25th, at the end of the month, it overtook the competition at the intense initial speed and gained a monthly share of 33.4%, which took it to the top. The second placed Sony's share was 32.1% of the full-frame mirrorless market, a difference of only 1.3%. So it is a narrow margin, but it is still first place. Interestingly, Canon comes in at third place with a total of 24% of the full-frame mirrorless market. And if you're wondering where BCN's data comes from, it's aggregated from actual sales of about 2,300 consumer electronic stores and online shops nationwide in Japan. BCN go on to say the reason for the Z5II's breakthrough is largely due to the price. In April, the average unit price of the entire full-size mirrorless, excluding tax, calculated by combining the body only and the lens kit, the same below, was 298,000 yen. On the other hand, the average unit price of the Z5II is 247,000 50,000 yen, which is more than 50,000 yen cheaper. BCN go on to say that some of the closest competition is the Sony A7C II and the Canon R6 Mark II, both of which are more expensive offerings. Now, there's a whole lot of things we have to keep in mind here. This is just for this month that we're looking at. This is, of course, for a new camera, and cameras always sell best in the month that they are released. Well, almost always. I'm sure we could find some data where that's not true, but I think the majority of the time it would be true. So will we expect to see these same numbers again next month? Well, I don't think so. But the fact that Nikon's been able to achieve this means it's possible that they can achieve it again. And who knows what is the next camera they have up their sleeves. And of course, any other camera company can do it as well. Sony might do it. Who knows what's coming next? There's the rumor of the FX2. That's certainly not a camera that's going to ignite the mass market because it is aimed at video and cinematographers. And who knows what's next from Canon? We've had rumors that the R6 III might be imminent, but again, that camera is only 2.5 or so years old. I'd be a little bit surprised if we saw it this soon. But you never know, if their sales are decreasing, well, perhaps Canon will be pushed to move quicker. Who knows? I just wanted to share that news with you, along with the fact that the Nikon ZF has had a minor firmware update, which is fixing an issue that would cause the camera to stop responding or to display error messages when operating the camera after selecting any of the following picture controls and then choosing a multiple exposure mode other than off. They were cloud picture controls downloaded from the Nikon Imaging Cloud recipes, or custom picture controls saved after adjustment using flexible color in NX Studio, then imported to the camera. That's all it is. It's amazing to see that Nikon's support and firmware just keeps rolling. It feels like for the last month or two, we've had firmware almost on average every week. Pretty amazing. Of course, we're looking forward to the arrival of firmware, the next firmware, firmware 2.00 for the Z6 III, which Nikon has telegraphed will come before the end of this year. And now we're almost in the middle of the year with bird detect. And if you didn't catch my recent video about the Z5II, it was actually mentioned in that video that the firmware for the Z5II did need to be tweaked for that specific model. That does follow on from my previous statements that firmware and AF algorithms do need to be tweaked and created for individual cameras. And if it's not individual cameras, it's individual sensors. And the fact that Nikon has only just got bird detect into the ZF and the Z5II just very, very recently. Both of those cameras have only gotten it in the last month. One camera's only just been released and the other one just got its major firmware update, the ZF. And thus, 24 megapixel cameras for Nikon, it's only just arrived, and the next one is going to be the Z6 III. I'm sure there's more to that story because, of course, Nikon did do a major update recently. Video was a little bit flickery. Anyway, Nikon listened to that. They addressed it. It's absolutely been improved. You can see multiple videos out there on the internet regarding this subject. And it's possible that the resources that were put into addressing that slowed down the resources that were perhaps going to be there to add the Z6 III bird detection. Who knows? That's absolutely a possibility. Any company only has X amount of budget, X amount of time, X amount of people power to solve any problem. And if they decided to address that, considering so much noise was made about something that really did not impact 99.9% of users. Never impacted me. Shooting on the Z6 III right now. It's a stunning camera for video usage, considering its price point and the speed of that sensor, which minimizes rolling shutter. All right, everybody, I'd love to know your thoughts about the BCN results. Absolutely fantastic to see Nikon actually hit the top for the first time in a very, very long time. Can they do it again, and when will they do it again? Will the Z5s sell strong enough to even make it next month as well? Who knows? But of course, Sony might release something exciting. Canon might release something exciting. Anybody could release something exciting and suddenly it all changes again. All right, love to know your thoughts. It's been so good to see you, and if this is your first time here, I'd love to see you again, so please do subscribe, please share, and please like. All right, bye for now.